I know you love each and every minute of that, Ryan, and I'm sorry to have to put everyone through it, but it's for our own amusement, isn't it?
I love it. I love it. I feel like I'm
goodness.
in like some kind of, I don't know, it's a cross between like an 80s aerobics show and a fishing show.
It's pretty wild, isn't it? It's pretty wild. Well, greetings to everybody that's tuned in and listening, and the numbers are going up nice and quick, so it's great to see that we've got that interest. My name's Simon Mildren, and I'm from HiveKeepers, and we're a beekeeping technology company based down here in Melbourne.
And I am Ryan Moloney. I'm a beekeeper with Beachbox Honey, and I'm also in Melbourne, Australia, down in the Mornington Peninsula. And each week or each show at Hive Buddies, we get together and try to bring you a show that is a little bit informative, it's a little bit fun, and occasionally it's just downright weird.
And I know who you're referring to there, and you're trying to typecast me as the weird guy. And
I'm just getting in early, mate. I'm getting in early.
I can see what's going on.
Yeah,
but that's fine. And hey, guys, we get help each time we do one of these from a guest buddy. They help us bring that seasonal element and their competence and expertise. Ryan, they can bring that part of it. And tonight we are totally privileged to have Vanessa join us from Mademoiselle Bee, and she's over in South Australia. And if you've not seen her Instagram page before, it is utterly amazing. It is something that I want to point people to. So Vanessa, it's awesome to have you here with us tonight. There she is.
Hello.
Awesome to see your face. I'm gonna come back to you shortly, and we're going to go into a whole heap of other things and go down the cool rabbit hole of beekeeping with you. But first, we're just going to quickly look back at our last session and see if there's anything that's sort of any questions or any concerns or any fact checking people have done on the work that we've done. And I've only got one, Ryan, this time. And those that were with us last time might remember Michael Johnson was our special guest, and he was there joining us, and we were talking about this really strange art of figure booty. Yeah, I know.
It is art, yes.
The art of figure booty. Now, if you didn't see last week's episode, everything's going to seem weird from this point forward. Hence, I've got the weird claim. But he shared with me. I'm going to share my screen with you, so I'm hopefully seeing this nice little image appear on your screen. So he's gone away over the last couple of weeks, and he sent me this image saying that he's well on his way to create his first figure booty sculpture.
That is impressive. That is impressive.
It is utterly impressive. And for those that weren't there, the idea is that there'd be a beehive somewhere in this, and the bees would come and go from this beautiful sculpture.
Now, knowing Michael, where do you reckon the entry to that beehive is going to be?
Oh, I don't want to. I'm just going to get myself.
Michael.
Yeah, knowing Michael, where's the entrance going to? It'd have to be central to the gold pan, surely. Come on.
Oh, the gold pan. That's where you went. Okay.
The gold.
Right, fair enough. All right, yeah, because there's gold coming out of the pan. I love it. Good.
Anyway, he had.
So he's saying that he did this.
He had me hanging all week, Ryan, that this was his work and that he did it, and I was super impressed and excited that he'd done this. And then he only let me down yesterday. Thanks, mate. That it wasn't his work, but he saw it when he was out driving and getting around. So kind of a bit of a chuckle there, pretty funny. But it was. You remember he wanted to build a Trojan horse, one of these?
Yeah, Trojan horse, yeah.
I told him how disappointed I was that it wasn't a Trojan horse. But
I kind of feel if it was a Trojan horse, you'd need to have Africanized bees in it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, I'm going to leave it at that. That's a little bit of feedback from last week, and I'm going to flick it over to you now. I'm sure you've had some sort of revelation in the last week or so.
Well, yeah, actually, you know what? Going back to like last week's show as well. Sorry, just before we get on to the revelation there. We also had Michael was talking about the TA testing of Jarrah honey and the medicinal qualities and how it's better than Manuka and whatnot. And I actually had one of our viewers send in a message saying, you know, I wonder what the TA of red gum is going to be. So I did a little bit of research. So I mean, there's obviously this is incomplete research because it's a little difficult to actually find out about, to be honest. But there are some interesting things in this, in that, TA testing for the red gum, for Jarrah kind of sits at about 30 plus, which equates to a MGO rating of, I think it was about 850 for Manuka. Okay. And red gum, they said, so what I found was that they had TA testing at 10 plus. So once it hits 10 plus, then it's classified as it has medicinal qualities to it. But probably the most interesting thing about it was that there was just red gum honey, but there was red gum in comb. So comb honey, and that had a TA of anywhere from 20 to 30 plus.
So much higher.
Yeah, so it's kind of goes to perhaps say that that the medicinal qualities are definitely within the raw stuff, but it's more than just the honey. It's it's the comb, it's the propolis, it's anything else that's in the comb. So now,
I can see the list of people that are checking in to join us tonight, and there's some people's names that are familiar to me. I'm not going to call them out just now, but there's some super smart people, and I'm privileged that they're listening to us. And I reckon they can help up-level us with this thinking. And maybe between now and next time, they can send through some more feedback and thinking, and we can get even smarter.
Well, okay. Well, how about this? Maybe for one of the shows, because we've got one of our wonderful, I believe that she's going to be a mentor, is a honey sommelier.
Yeah.
Perhaps that could be the next show. Is that we're going to talk? Maybe we'll talk about honey testing, and the qualities and all that kind of stuff. I think that'd be super interesting.
Oh, nice one.
But anyway,
on that feedback thing, just really quickly, just wanted to point out to people they can make their comments in the chat, and we'll endeavour to keep an eye on the chat and answer those questions as we go through the night. I just realised that some people are probably wanting to do that, and this whole idea of feedback, like we don't know necessarily all the ins and the outs of everything. We're just trying to do our best to bring some quality info. If someone thinks that they've got a different viewpoint or something else we need to have our attention brought, bring it up, and then we'll make sure we cover it like we've just done now with what happened last time.
Well, that's why we've got Vanessa here too, to correct us.
fix us up. Totally.
Now talking about making mistakes, all right, here we go. Ryan's revelation for the week. For some of you who are watching, you might be thinking, okay, it's time to actually requeen my hive. And, part of the reasons why you might requeen your hive is underperforming queen, an aggressive queen. Vanessa knows about that. She posted something on that Instagram, double suiting. So we might talk about that a bit later. But I got onto a queen breed. So in Victoria at the moment, it's still a bit cold for any Victorian breeders to actually be breeding queens. So if you're wanting a queen, you're going to be looking at New South Wales or Queensland, or even South Australia as well. Yeah, definitely. I don't know if you can get them from Western Australia. I'm not sure. But anyway, and he said, oh, you know what, I'm booked out. There's none. And then he went, well, actually, I'm doing a catch on Monday. If I've got some spare ones, like if I come across some spare ones, I'll send them down to you. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm not ready. I don't want them quite. I was just kind of sussing out. Oh, well, but you know what? If you booked out, I better take them. So I went, okay, cool, no worries. All right. And then I didn't hear anything else. And then,
so I guess you're not. So I guess if you're not hearing anything, you're not expecting a whole lot, then, are you?
Well, no, but this is the world of queen bee breeders, is that they are constantly under the pump. It is so much work to breed queens. I'm not kidding you. There is a ton of work to raise queens, right? So then they're typically pretty hard to get in contact with in the first place. Sure. And if you do, it's normally a text message. And if it's a text message, it's normally in, kind of 3-word sentences. It's very short and succinct.
I must admit, my experience has been similar.
So yes, I was not expecting anything. And then I get home and my wife, Ellie, goes, oh, by the way, your queen's arrived. I was like, oh, what? What are you talking about? I open up the cupboard. I've got 12 queens sitting inside the cupboard.
That was just a week or two ago, is that right?
That was 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
The weather was a bit rough then still too, wasn't it?
It was not ideal. But anyway, they arrived. So I quickly rushed around the apiaries and just made some splits and went, and I was like, oh, should I requeen the angry ones? No, I'll just leave them for now. I'll just make the splits and away we go. And so I thought, okay, all right, job done. We made it through that one. And then the following Tuesday, he said, oh, I sent you some more yesterday.
Double down.
And I didn't have any tracking numbers or anything like that. And it was kind of like, it came around to Friday and it was like, they haven't arrived yet.
Oh my.
And they arrived Friday afternoon. So they were in the post a bit too long, really. But then they turned up and then had to run out and decided I was going to requeen those angry hives. So those angry hives got a new queen, which I'm very, very happy with. But the lesson here is to communicate clearly with your queen bee breeder, get a tracking number and know when they're turning up.
Oh, that's priceless. Absolutely priceless, but no surprise there either. Well, and I think you said the other day when you first sort of told me that this conundrum was unfolding, that if the weather conditions aren't too tip-top, which they certainly weren't perfect, well, it's not a big deal if you lose a few to some slightly cooler weather, because at the end of the day, they're the cranky bees anyway that you don't.
Well, yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah,
maybe there's that tiny little piece of silver lining on it, if that can be looked at in the positive.
That's exactly it, mate. Now tell me, come on, you weirdo. What have you found this week?
Oh, how have I found this week? Well, first I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
Can you imagine a world or a time where stealing a beehive was a capital offence?
Well,
pretty serious.
But I'd say now. Let's do it.
I'd say now.
This is COVID times, man. People are going nuts. Okay.
So I raise that because I find that that's a pretty serious thing. If you steal my bees, that's it. You're done. But back in good old bee folklore, the Celts were doing this in medieval Europe. You steal someone's bees, capital offence. And they had this whole legal framework around the protection of bees back in medieval European times.
What do you mean a legal framework?
They had a legal framework where it was where there was this whole idea. This is why there's this whole idea of if someone stole your beehives, then they could absolutely suffer the consequences of the law.
Awesome.
And to think that was a thing back then is priceless. And I've got to tell you one other one. I'm going to read it from my notes.
I'd love to see their GPS tracking back then, mate.
Well, hey, we can help. Here's another one that came from it, which I think is just amazing. Anybody who sustained a bee sting and did not retaliate. So I've got my bees and you turn up to my place and one of my bees stings you and you don't retaliate, I owe you a meal of honey.
That sounds like a fair deal to me.
I think
they were onto something.
That's kind of cool, isn't it? So if I'm here, if you're all cool and calm after my bees sting you, then that's fine. I give you a pot of honey or I give you a meal of honey. So that was actually another thing sitting there in law back in good old medieval times. But there's more. There's more things happening back in bee folklore to tell you about.
Okay.
I reckon this is probably a more familiar one. Have you heard about the telling of the bees?
I have, actually.
Yeah.
And you know what? You know why? You know why? It's because there's a fantastic movie called Eurovision. and it makes it into the end.
I'm not sure where that's going, but okay.
But yes, go. Tell me.
No, let me tell you. So the cool thing about telling the bees, it was a tradition back in English times, gone past, where beekeeping families were required to tell the bees like major things that are happening with the family. And a good example of that might be like, what if the beekeeper died? Well, they believed strongly that they had to tell the actual bees that this is what's happened. And if they didn't, the bees could often up and leave, or they might die, or something bad might happen. And that was obviously not a good thing, because then the family is left beeless and honeyless. So therefore, there was this whole idea.
Beekeeperless too.
Absolutely. But if you didn't tell the actual the bees that, then there was these problems downstream. There's a few more though that if you didn't notify these bees of an impending move, like just say you wanted to take the bees across the countryside, the bees might sting the beekeeper to death. That was a firm belief in Cornish traditions. Pretty wild, hey?
Jeez. Those Valkenburg brothers have got a lot of talking to do.
And another one that I stumbled across too is, I don't know how your Roman mythology is looking at the moment, Ryan. And I don't know if
mate, I'm all over it.
I don't know if you truly understand the origin of how bees got their sting, but I'm willing to tell you. Let me read you it.
I know not the biology version. Yes,
not the. It is absolutely
yes, the Roman
nothing
mythology
to do with
version,
the biology version, and anyone who's wanting that is about to get disappointed. Let me tell you the short story. So a bee came up to Mount Olympus to give Jupiter, one of the gods, a gift of honey, which sounds nice. He was so delighted.
Did he sting Jupiter? Is that why he had to give the honey?
No.
Okay.
I see what you're doing. What you're doing. He was so delighted by the gift, he promised her whatever she would like. She asked for the ability to sting the humans who tried to steal honey from her hive. I reckon there's some of your bees, Vanessa. Jupiter was taken aback by the ill nature of the request and granted it with one caveat. And that is that the bee would have the ability to sting if she would like. However, it would cost the bee her life.
Oh,
isn't that a lesson? Isn't that a lesson for us humans to think about?
Yes. All right.
And then it's a pretty cool story. And the last one I'm just going to throw out there is it's a bit of Greek folklore as well. So the Greeks believed that, like, if there was like a cliff or something and there was holes in there, like caves or little openings, bees would often live in there. They obviously find it a nice little spot and they would live there. And they also believe that these holes were like the connection through to the afterlife. So therefore, they really strongly believe in Greek mythology that bees can are the connection to the afterlife, and
they can cross between the worlds.
They can cross between the worlds and had a real association with death and bees. Maybe they'll predisposed to anaphylaxis. I don't know, but there's certainly.
Do they talk to the bees as well? Because I mean, like, if that was the case, you'd want to be passing on messages to the bees, wouldn't you?
Totally.
Like, take it in and tell Bob he still owes me 20 quid.
Oh, dearie me. Well, that's the weird stuff that I've been finding, and I'm seeing some other people are making some notes and popping some comments in the chat. So if I can collate a few of those, I'll post them on the notes after this so people can see where I found my information, and they can see some of other people's, because there's some cool stuff out there.
Oh, there is. You know who else is cool? Vanessa Hoo. I think we need to get Vanessa. Stick your camera on, Vanessa.
Let's have.
I'd love to see her.
Now, there she is.
Hello.
Now, Vanessa's got a pretty cool story. Talking to her the other day about sort of the whole thing about beekeeping, and Vanessa was telling me how, like, she's like a second generation beekeeper. Her dad was a commercial beekeeper in France, and the funny thing here,
that is cool.
The sweet thing is, like, she didn't really want to be like him and like do the hard work like him and like do the early mornings and do all these old like traditional ways. So instead of doing that, she became a photographer for 9 years. And I can see the face.
You got to unmute yourself there.
Yeah, you're allowed to defend yourself. You are absolutely allowed to defend the story. But then, like, you've been a photographer in lots of really interesting places, Vanessa, from New Caledonia to New Zealand and in other places. And that's probably why, when I mentioned earlier about your Instagram page, you've got talent in photography. That is obvious, and people need to check that out. But what I also liked about your story is that when you finally moved here to Australia after doing your photography around, you got back into the bees. And whilst you're a little bit, from what you said the other day, it sounded like you're still a little bit defiant about doing it the old school way. You've now got your way of doing it smart and having fun with it. And you were saying to me, and this is the sweet bit, is it's brought you closer to your father, and like you're like cool buddies now. And I think that's super awesome.
Yeah, I love that story so much, because it just like evaluated from like headbutting each other to like, we're best buddies and then we're working the same way.
How cool is that?
Yes.
That is nice. You're no longer trying to kick him out of the hive. That's good.
Boom, boom. Too many bee puns. This is going to get troubling. Oh dear. Hey, and so you're South Australian based, and like you do like loads of things, and you just like the average beekeeper, you probably do more things than is physically possible to manage. But you're a classic person who's out there removing swarms, catching bees. You've got your own commercial operation with beehives that you've had for quite some time. I know you were talking about leasing hives, and you have like lots of your hives in lots of different places as well. But really what I've picked up from you, probably one of your biggest loves and things that you like the most is being able to...
Can I just jump in there? Just jump in. Leasing hives. Are you talking about like other people rent them off you, or you rent them off another beekeeper and no, you work as... Okay, cool. Sorry. All right. Cool. All right. So I heard a podcast, and like back in the older days, like the big commercial guys would actually lease out their hives to other beekeepers. And I thought, oh my gosh, wow. All right. And so I thought maybe you weren't that far from your dad after all.
No way.
How is that?
Sorry, mate. Continue on.
All good. But and something that I can tell that's really like super passionate and close to you is about sharing that knowledge and love for bees with other people and teaching them and showing them how to care deeply for their bees.
Yes, that's one of the things I really appreciate about beekeeping is there's always different ways of doing beekeeping, and if you can adapt yourself with your own way of being and your way of living too, it's just magic. And I just love it. I just love being in the moment with people and just see how they're doing it, and teaching them more and learning more from my clients too at the same time, actually. So
now something that
very much a people person from what I'm gathering. You know, I mean, like I'm a bit fangirling here a bit because I've been following you on Instagram a bit, all right? and you're very much a people person. Probably one of the posts that kind of really struck a chord with me was you actually posted, it wasn't about the bees, but it was actually about one of your clients who you've been mentoring. And about how proud you were about her and about what she's achieved. And I was kind of like, oh, that's the kind of mentor that you're really after. That's a beautiful relationship. And you always seem to have a lot of fun with people, no matter where you are, like even on like rooftops of buildings. That was probably one of the first ones I saw you do. So you're very much a people person.
A little story about that young girl that I posted about. She has autism. So I do a lot of clients with like disabilities, and I shouldn't say that, but she's one of the one that just keep carrying on after 4 years being together, and she loves bees so much that she really wants at 16 years old want to make like a little business about bees. And
cool. That's unreal. That's super cool. Yeah, that whole bee therapy thing is becoming a huge deal now, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's unreal.
We talked about it over the phone. It was like along the lines, I do this and I do that and I do this and I do that. I really like that.
Yeah.
And what I really like is just helping people, you know. So if I can educate people that doesn't have any, you know, disabilities or like something that is, you know, not right with them, I'm happy to just educate someone. But if I can help someone that is not doing so well, it's even better for me. And I just came up with like doing some type of courses. It was like horticultural therapy. You can correct my English, okay? And it was along the lines of using nature to be able to help people physically and mentally at the same time. So people that suffer from depression, PTSD, autism, ADHD, you name it, you have it, okay? Even people with multiple sclerosis, which is me. And it's like, I want to bring the bees to that. So I did. And I am, my services are NDIS approved. So the NDIS pays people, or they pay me to actually work with anyone.
I was going to say, is this a program that you created yourself, or was it a program that you were just able to step into, or
No, that's something that I've done myself. I just really wanted to. So the horticultural therapy is more renowned in UK than it is here. So they still have a panel at the moment, and they're still working out what they can do legally talking to make it a thing. But I was like, well, okay, nature is great, but in nature you have so much, like you have bugs and grubs and like bees and pollinators and butterflies, you name it, you have it all. You can have birds, you can have, animals. And I was like, well, my thing is that when I sit with the bees and I have that sense of calmness, and the bees don't leave you too much room to do something wrong, and you can see it on that video with me with the 2 suits. It's like, well, I've done something wrong, obviously. And if you are someone that works with bees just because you need to have that moment for yourself, you are definitely in the moment bin, and everyone needs that moment for themselves. And that's what I like to bring to people. So I just developed that, and I would like other people to do it too, because it's a magic thing to do.
Well, that is absolutely beautiful. And so tonight what we're going to do is we're going to talk more about how to bring those beautiful bees to people, especially when they turn up in the tree out the front of your place. Swarms.
Great segue.
Catching swarms.
Absolutely. I think it's a fascinating story, and it's interesting to where you've got to with all of that, Vanessa. And I'm super excited to hear a load more and follow that journey with you. But we should shift gears now and look at what next. And what I like to do now is hear from both of you in particular. I might throw it to you first, Ryan. What have you been doing other than struggling with some requeening? What's been happening in your apiary the last couple of weeks?
No, look, that's it. I've just been requeening and dealing with some angry hives. And you know what, Vanessa, I know what you said, that sometimes, like it's what you've done. Sometimes it's just them. They are angry. But yeah, so no, I took over some hives off some people who were sick at the time, and they were not good. So, and the genetics were just terrible. And every time you went near it, it was angry. But it was like, well, you don't need to deal with this. I can deal with this. I'm okay with this. But now that they're near other people, they need to change. So the angry queens had to go. But that's pretty much all I've been doing. Oh, and eventually getting around to finishing off wax dipping and painting the boxes so that I can actually get them out there.
Sure.
And on the hives, which I'm probably about 3 weeks away from needing to do, or even 2 weeks. But
2 weeks after today and tomorrow.
Yeah, but swarm season is upon us because of it. And so we need to kind of either work out what we're going to do in terms of how we're going to manage swarms. Are we going to stop swarms in our own boxes? I mean, technically, you need to actually have swarm prevention. They're the rules. And if it's your swarm, you've got to go and get it. That's really the rules there. But just before we get on to the thing of swarms, I just also want to preface the stuff that we're going to talk about tonight is like going to go and catch them. How we're going to catch them. Some of the methods, some of the equipment, and then what we're going to do with them afterwards. But now, given that Vanessa's in South Australia, which is awesome, and we've got I know we've got people in England. I know we've got people in Western Australia. So you guys, if you guys see a swarm, you guys can, and probably I don't know, even in Tasmania, probably even Queensland, everywhere, and Northern Territory. Let's not forget the Northern Territory. Everywhere apart from Victoria and New South Wales, all right? If you see a swarm, or you see a swarm on Facebook or something like that, you guys can go and get it, and we'll tell you how. In Victoria and New South Wales at the moment, the only swarm that you can get is if it's your own. Yeah. You are not allowed to go and get them unless you are a commercial beekeeper at this stage because of government restrictions. So just keep that in mind. And if you do go and get them, you have to get permission off wherever you're going to. So if it's in somebody's backyard, one of your neighbors or something like that, you have to get permission for it, and appropriate social distancing and COVID protocols, wearing masks and all of that kind of stuff applies. I mean, that applies nationwide, but especially for Victoria and New South Wales at the moment. So swarms, I reckon, Vanessa, you've caught a fair few swarms in your time. Yeah.
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 Actually, that's a funny one because I think the first season that I came here, I just wanted to prove that I could catch swarms. So people didn't know me and they were like, "Oh, you can't do it." I'm like, let me show you. And I did. And I became like very quickly very big. But the second season, we have a little group here in Adelaide. It's called the Adelaide Collective, Urban Beekeeper Collective, something along those lines. I should know about that, but yeah. And we had a gathering, and it was along the lines of we're gonna have a king swarm and a queen swarms. And I was like, I'm gonna be bigger than the king swarms. I'm gonna catch as many as I can. And I was known as the queen swarm because I caught 76 swarms that season. I was like, crazy. I'm like, why did I do that for?
So basically, to catch that many swarms, right, you've got to have your gear ready to rock and roll in the car all the time, right?
That's right. I always carry, or back in the days I had a big car, but I always carry like at least 10 nukes in the box, in the trunk, with like buckets for my swarms to put them in there if they're too big or too small. I have it all in the car. I've reduced now because I don't think it's necessary to prove that I need to pick up 76 swarms.
We probably run out a bit of time for that as well, right?
Crazy.
Yeah.
But you know, that's what it is.
So let's go through the list of the stuff that you would take with you. So first of all, let's talk about some perhaps techniques of catching swarms. I mean, we've got the baited hives, right? So we've got hive, boxes that we've already set up, in particular locations. And from
you need to remember and to tell people that I don't know if it's the same rules all over Australia, but you're not allowed to put old frames of inside of your box because that can that's how you share some type of disease. We know which one. We don't need to name it. You don't know. But
for Robin,
you're not allowed to. You have to put like fresh frames of wax or in your box, in a trap box. So don't go ahead and say, oh yeah, we can place old frames with comb in there, because you're going to be in trouble with the biosecurity officers.
Yeah. That's for setting up a bait hive. Yeah.
Just for the
but
bait
you can
hive.
use an old box, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, as long as it's clean and there's no trace of comb on there.
Okay. All right, cool. So you got to make sure you've scraped everything off, make sure it's clean, pressure washed even. Yeah,
exactly. And I think the best thing about if you scrape it, there's still the smell that's retained inside of the box. So that's
so would you wash it then, or do you keep it?
No, don't wash it. Just scrap it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, so the baited hive, and then you've got things like your swarm commander, which you put in that. Yeah, I don't know if you've used it. I've never used it, but yeah.
You not used that?
Hey?
You haven't used that yet?
No, I haven't used it. No.
Teach us.
I've used lemongrass on a piece of cloth.
Yeah, did that work for you?
Yeah, it did. Yeah. And I believe the swarm commander is pretty it's a bit better than lemongrass.
It's good. It works as well as lemongrass. But I have a little thing here, is that here in South Australia we have a shop that is run by a lady called Vanessa also, and the beekeeping shop sells little capsules made of real pheromones in there.
Oh,
so
queen pheromone. Really?
And so you leave it in the envelope. You don't need to open it. You just leave it in an envelope on the top of your frames. And then when you catch a swarm, you remove it and put it back inside of your freezer, and then you can reuse it after that. And she made that because she has a background in science, and she used to work in labs, and she made that all of herself. That is fantastic. I just love it. So if you want to look into it, actually, it's Adelaide Beekeeping Supplies.
Yep. Okay. All right. We'll put that in the notes afterwards. That sounds awesome. Prashant, you turned your camera on. What do you got, buddy?
What is a swarm commander? That's the question from Linda.
What's swarm commander?
Go, Simon.
I suppose the best way to explain Swarm Commander, and my buddies here will correct me as necessary, is the whole idea is it's a product that you can put in a hive to encourage a swarm into that hive. A bit like what Ryan said with the lemongrass, a bit like what Vanessa was saying with the pheromones in the envelope. It's a commercially available product that can sit
to
inside.
spray. Yeah, it is not deodorant for beekeepers.
I would suggest that's not smart.
Not a smart idea. No. Okay, all right. So we've got the baited hives. All right, and then we get, if we are a new beekeeper and we want to catch swarms. So you've got the Adelaide Horticultural Association thing that you said beforehand, yes. And then there's Facebook. So your normal, kind of Facebook groups around. Normally people post up on those. There's normally though from people who the general public kind of know a beekeeper, and somebody's in the group who kind of goes, oh, my neighbor, 2 streets away found this or said this, does anybody want to come and get it? And so normally they don't come with pictures, and normally they don't really have a lot of details, and I'd say maybe 50%. It could be wasps. True. The other 30%, they've already moved on by the time you've got there. 20% you'll walk away with the swarm. But so you've got the Facebook groups, but the council as well. So you can also just, contact your council and let them know that you're quite happy to come and do that. For some people, depending on your point of view on it, people do it for free, or people get paid to do it. Typically, like a commercial beekeeper, because it's time out of their day to go and do it. They've got to stop their work in order to go and do that and do a service for the public. And then they've got to house it and look after it and have all the equipment. I think it's probably more fair that they get paid for that. If it's something that you're actually wanting to add on to your apiary and increase your apiary, well, the commercial beekeeper isn't necessarily wanting to increase their apiary. They're kind of going, oh, I've got enough, and I don't really want to have a problem of having to keep it separate and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, they'll probably do it for free. So those are the avenues of kind of finding out where the swarms are. Now, what happens when you get there? What are the kind of places that we're looking at when we go and find a swarm, Vanessa?
Well, one of the first things that I do is that when a swarm lands somewhere, it can be on the tree, can be on the ground, can be on the wall, not in the wall, let's say. It can be on the car. We like that one. When I found a swarm inside of the engine of a car, I was like,
oh wow.
Here?
Okay.
But the main thing that I do firstly is try to find out where they're coming from. So we know that when a hive swarm, they're going to swarm 1 to 5 meters away from the mother hive they're coming from. So I always look around, and if it's coming from someone else's hive, I'd be like, I'm not touching that.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'm like, it's their hive. I want to know if they want to get it or not.
Sure. Yeah.
That's one of the main things I do. Then after that, if they don't want it, or if it's not from someone's hive, I just go and catch it different way. Obviously, they're going to land everywhere they can land. And I found in the CBD one day was like on the wall higher up, and I had to go and climb 2 ladders with like my bee vacuum to try to vacuum them out, because they wouldn't listen to me when they come in the box.
Yeah. All right, so you've actually just touched on something there, the bee vacuum.
Yeah.
So this is a piece of equipment that you got. What is it?
So a bee vacuum is like a vacuum cleaner that's been attached to either a box or bucket via the tubings that the vacuum has. And what happens
so it's kind of like an air sealed container with a hose going out one direction, vacuum going the other direction, and like a mesh in between to stop the bees from going through into the vacuum.
That's it.
Okay.
And I don't use that often, because I know it can damage the queen accidentally, so I try not to use it as much. And I try to use a vacuum that can change speed, so you don't go vacuum the shit out of them. Oops, sorry.
Well, there's no G rating on this show. You can.
I'm sorry.
You can do whatever you like.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. But
Go to bed, kids.
You don't want to vacuum and just hurt them, and agitate them at the same time. So yeah, I try not to use it as much, but that's a very handy piece of tool to have if you can't reach the hive, the swarm, or there's too many bees in a cut out situation.
Yeah. We're in a difficult situation where you can't really kind of scoop them out, shake them off. Or anything like that. I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos, and because of one thing I really want to try this season is the old bucket on an extension pole. Yeah, I really want to try that. And so that kind of technique is probably one of the things is really important in your kit is to have like a white sheet first of all to go on the ground, so you can actually see the bees on the ground when they shake, when they fall onto the ground, and then you're kind of going, okay, is there a queen on there? It's a lot easier to find than if you're trying to look through grass and sticks.
Oh, that is probably one of the most simple hacks. What you've just said there, Ryan, is to make your life easier when doing this is to have a sheet on the ground. Absolutely, couldn't agree more. And if you forget about that, you'll regret it down the track when you're trying to make good what you've got going on there. So yeah, good hack, that one.
But yeah, then it's the bucket on the end of a pole, and then just trying to hit the underneath to try to get the swarm to fall into the bucket, and then pull the bucket down and tip it into whatever container that you're going to put it in. And that could be like a broccoli box with some frames in it, or just a cardboard box, or the actual hive that you want to put it in. If it's a nuke, depending on the size.
How do you use broccoli box to put your swarms in?
I don't, but I have seen people do it.
Okay, I was about to say, because that's my question.
Ventilation's a problem.
I've tried it. Okay, I've tried it, and I was like, oh, that would be interesting. Maybe it would be cheaper than buying a Nuke's box, But these chew through the polyester.
Yeah,
I wouldn't keep them in there.
No. But that was fun for me to see that actually the bees chew the whole thing. I was like, why is there so much white stuff on my lawn?
Right.
And they actually chew it and just destroy it and remove it. So yeah, if you were to actually catch a swarm inside of a broccoli box, don't leave them that long, like maybe a couple of days, and move on.
Okay, all right. So we're touching on something about kind of what we're going to do with the swarm once we get it. So you know what, we'll actually come back to that. But before we do that, let's talk about temperament. What do you find is normal for a swarm?
So normal for a swarm, they go to honey, so they're drunk and they're happy.
Yeah.
Normal.
Yeah.
If you catch them at the right time, so it's not cold outside and you're placing and removing all of the heat by placing your hand in there. If the weather is perfect, meaning if it's like 19 and above degrees, if it's sunny, if it's not windy, if it's not going to rain, it's just like opening a hive. The temperament is the same as like when you open a hive and it's raining. It's like, well, are you coming inside of my hive? Yeah. Same thing with a swarm, but most of the time I go and catch my swarms in my shorts and just a veil.
Yeah, I've seen that.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it. My Birkenstocks, because it's the safest shoes you can wear.
Yeah.
And you just like literally that should be how you could catch a swarm safely. But then in saying this, always be ready, then feel sorry. So have your suit ready in case you need to wear it.
Yeah, my first swarm that I caught was actually with Ben Moore, and it was in the dark. And he was like, okay, you know what? These are going to be really angry and they're going to be crawly. So bees at nighttime are crawly. They don't fly around everywhere. They'll crawl up in your suit and everything. This is go. But yeah, okay, all right. So we're expecting that they're kind of normally pretty docile. And one of the things that we're really looking for is we've got to find the queen. Yeah. We've got to get that queen into the box. And we're going to either shake them into the box, we're going to scoop them up into the box, we're going to suck them up into the box, and then we're going to take them home. There's a couple of rules about what has to be on that box if you're going to do a baited hive, that is. you have to have your ID and all that kind of stuff, but check with your government agency on that one. But because each one is different. But so we've got them in the box. Now, what are we going to do with them? So we're going to take them home, or are we going to take them home? That's the next part. Go.
You forgot a step. You forgot a step. So,
sealing them up so they don't come out again.
No, you have to sing to them. And
you have to. Okay.
Good. I'm not on my own with weird. This is good.
No, it's not that. There's one of the things that I like to pinpoint and that often get confused is when you catch a swarm, and sometimes people leave a little bit at in the tree or like the location they are at, because they think they see the bees fanning the Nasanov scent. So Nasanov pheromones, we know that's the pheromone that's like calling out the other bees and say, hey, come here. Doesn't mean necessarily that the queen is in there. Yes. So you can catch a swarm and have the bees fanning the Nasanov, and they might be queenless, or they might not have a queen in there. So you really, really need to make sure that you know that you have a queen in there. So most of the time we hear a lot of beekeepers actually waiting for nighttime to actually move back the box. So sometimes you cannot do that, and you have to just take your box. So don't be fooled by the Nasanov scents and the Nasanov bee butt tucking the butt out and it smells delicious type of thing. It doesn't mean nothing. Doesn't mean that the queen is in there. It just mean that they really like the box and they're going to move in there, and that's it.
Well, this could be a bit of a trick question for you then. Is if the fanning is not a sign, and obviously there's no comb in there, so you can't see any eggs in there. She obviously hasn't laid any eggs. Is there any way of knowing that there's the queen in there without visually sighting her?
No.
Okay. All right. Good.
So, and that's exactly what I was thinking too, Ryan. I didn't want people to be thinking tonight, do we have to sort through 20,000 bees in a box to try to find a queen? There's people out there that do that, but no, that's counterintuitive here. Is you don't want to disrupt them so much. It's leave them there, keep watching, and you've just got to use your best intuition. And at some point, you won't get that right. You'll learn the hard way, as we all have. But yeah, it's about just take your time.
Now, are you taking it home?
No.
Where are you taking it?
Quarantine.
Okay. Why?
Because they may hold American thoroughbred in them.
Okay. How would you know?
You will wait and see after a couple of months of the bees just doing their own thing if there's something happening inside of the hive. Okay. All right. So what we're talking about is we're going to take our swarm. Obviously, there's no comb on our foundation. If we're foundationless, then cool. That honey that's in their belly, they're going to use that to create their comb. Then we're going to wait for the queen to lay out that comb. We're going to see capped brood, and once we see capped brood, I like to wait for at least a couple of cycles of that, definitely, to kind of see if we're going to have EFB or AFB. Would you have chalk brood in there? Yeah, you could, because the chalk brood is not something that actually is brought by the bees. It's actually literally just changing temperature. You get the hot cold type of thing, and it's just them catching a cold as such. Yeah. Okay. All right. So and then there's also brood. Everyone can have chalk brood. It's not something that's going to kill the hive unless your hive is very weak. Yeah, no, I was just thinking it was more that because it's a fungal thing, so it could be on the bees already, or it could not be. But it's not the end of the world, even if they do have it anyway. And another thing you might be looking for is definitely mites. Definitely mites. And what else might we look at? Basically, we're looking for any kind of brood diseases or any kind of problems with the laying of the queen or anything like that. And a temperament problem too. Yes. If they're really angry, is that something that you want to deal with again? So you're gonna quarantine it. And how long would you quarantine them for? A couple of months at least. All right. Okay, cool. Yeah. And probably a word for those who have never caught a swarm is that they build out that comb really, really quick. So which is it's fabulous to see, and you'll go, oh my god, this is so amazing, this hive is just going to explode, and then you go to put the second box on and you're like, why did they stop? cricket. It's true.
Vanessa's made a really important point there, which I just want to like make sure we just go to one more time, and that is this whole idea of catching a swarm's great. It's fun. It is extremely fun. It's nice to be up close to the bees. You learn a lot every time you do that. It can be technical, so it could be a challenge. But people often don't realise the possible issues you are bringing back to your hive, hence your point about quarantining there. And I'm sure we'll deal with this another time, like on another night, but that whole thing about going and collecting cutouts and removing established bee colonies from places is, people see that as like a real, like in their early days of beekeeping, it's a really quick way to be able to gather more hives and increase my number of beehives at home. But you need to be really careful about that. Have you had any nasty experiences with that, or where you've noticed something where you've gone, this is just not for me? Is that something that you commonly find, Vanessa?
I found I get contacted on a regular basis for hives that are left on land. So people buy land and they're like, oh, there's hives there. What can I do? Obviously, I'm like, well, you can contact the Department of Primary Industry and they're supposed to come and help you, or I can come and take some samples for you. So I will not remove a hive without knowing whose is this. But also, if I have the get-go to remove it, to have any type of sampling done and get the result, and it's knowing that it's clear, and then I can move them into a brand new box.
Okay.
We've got a couple of questions here. Darren and Rachel are saying, do you quarantine all your hives together or several sites? What requirements would you want to satisfy with quarantine? Distance from your existing hives, etc.
I separate them from my existing hive. So I have a site where I'm always going to go and bring them to. And I try not to place them side to side, and try to space them as much as I can. And then, yeah, when I know they are disease-free and everything is fine, I can then just gradually just bring them back somewhere I want them to be at.
Yep.
So another point which I actually saw in my chats is that thanks to today's topic on swarming, we have a volunteer in Charlie for hosting a tribe on Hive Buddy regarding swarms.
Hey, you beaut.
So now we've got a swarm on Hive Buddy. Excellent.
So, yeah, so it's kind of a swarm information kind of stuff. Yeah.
Sounds like a plan. And I just see Rachel's gone one step further with her question. She's sort of saying, so greater than 5 kilometres from your normal apiary location is where you would keep your quarantining bees. Is that fair to say, or have you got
It is fair to say, but then after that, you don't know who's around you 5 kilometers around, so you may bring something around them. Try to find some places that you're sure it's going to be like a big land. So I have a massive land that I know I can place them, and there won't be many people around. And it's not like you can contact someone and say, hey, is there whose hives are around me? Because that's a breach of privacy to start with. But then you may be able to find out if there's close by hives, if you don't want to be a threat to them.
Yeah.
Hey, Ryan, we've done a whole lot about catching swarms and what we're going to do with them once we've got them and taken them through. I reckon maybe we back up a tiny bit and we talk about how to prevent them in the first place when we've got our own hives. We probably should at least have a little bit of a conversation, given how seasonally relevant that is right now. Yes. How are we going to, my colony's coming out of winter, it's the first day of spring, I'm going to open them up tomorrow because it's 25 degrees. What should be on my mind? What are some of the tricks I should have up my sleeve? What should I be looking for?
First day of spring, I start 2 weeks before spring.
There you go. Tell me more.
So, tell me more.
And you get a free set of steak knives.
I'm the type of person, I have hives all over the place, and I travel a lot and I have a lot of mentoring to do. So I don't have time to just get to my hives on time. So one of the things that I have been doing for the past 2 to 3 weeks, actually, because it's been on and off, warm, cold, rainy stuff. And one of the things that I like to pinpoint, we know the lifespan of a bee is 42 hours average of flying, okay? So if a bee is stuck inside of their hive when it's winter and it's been raining a lot, they don't fly as much, and the queen bee is still gonna just like lay eggs. So the chance of that hive swarming is very high. So what I do is that I go inside of my hives and I give them some room. So either way, I go in the hive like 2 to 3 weeks before and remove a few frames of honey, which is the best thing you can do, because you can still have a cold snap. And then if you were to put an empty box when it's still winter, like weaken your hive. There's no need to do that.
So don't put a super on, just stick a couple of fresh frames in.
That's it. Just remove a couple of frames that are full of honey. Here's why I have my honey here. I've been giving my housemates a lot of jobs lately, and it's very sticky. Come back every day with more frames of honey. It's like, but one of the things that is very important to do. So if you're a beekeeper like me that don't use a queen excluder in between of two boxes, just remove some frame. If your hive percentage of honey is more than 50%, remove a couple of frames, you'll be good. And then every 10 days, go in there just to make sure that they haven't refilled everything with honey. Why we do that is because the queen bees, spring is just around the corner. Spring is just there, depending where you live. She's not going to stop or slow down her rating of laying eggs. And, well, everything is blossoming around. So we have flowers and, and the bees are not going to stop. They're going to be like, yeah, bugger you. I'm just going to go and do my thing, because we need food for, winter and like 6 months.
Yeah.
But it's always something to do every 10 days. Goes inside of your hive, and if you think you have too much honey and the queen doesn't have enough room to lay eggs, remove some frames and shuffle them around and just place empty frames in there.
And then you just so you're waiting until the weather is warm enough for you to stick an empty box on top.
That's it.
Right.
That's it.
That friend of mine I was talking about before, who is disorganized and is checking his hive for the first time tomorrow.
Is that you?
That friend of mine.
Friend, yeah.
Friend of mine. If he was to, if she was to go in there tomorrow and have a look and go, okay, so there's a fair bit of honey here, I could take some of that. But at the same time, I see there, and the weather looks nice enough, you could probably be able to pull out most of the frames and have a good look. What about if I see a queen cell?
Ooh.
What happens if I see a queen cell? What am I going to do?
You do a happy dance? No, I'm kidding. No. If you see, there's a difference between a queen cell and a queen cup. So, you get the queen cup and people will be like, oh my God, there's an egg in there. No. So don't panic. The first thing you have to do is really just to maneuver your frame a certain way to be able to see inside of the queen cup or queen cell, okay? What you do is that you look if there's something in there. If there's nothing in there, we good.
Yeah,
that's good. If there is something in there, then you stop. You're not going to go and squash it. You're not a terrible person. What you do is you're going to look for signs of the queen, and the first thing you look for is eggs, freshly laid eggs inside of the cells. And then if you don't find any and you can see there's only cat brood there, don't you bloody touch it.
Yeah, you need that for the survival of the colony, don't you?
Get a queen again.
That's it. Then if you find the queen and there's a queen cell with like stuff in there, you're like, okay, what am I supposed to do? Do I want a second hive, or do I want to just give some room to the queen?
Yep.
Would it, if there was already a capped queen cell, so ready to rock and roll, and obviously depending on where on the frame it is too, because if it's not a supersedure cell, the old queen is going to wait until the new queen comes back mated, and then she's going to go. So there's no swarming with the supersedure cell. But if we're looking at swarm cells, would you take the old queen, like if you're going to do a split, would you take the old queen and put her in a new hive in a split, and then move that somewhere else? So you're kind of simulating a swarm, or would you take the queen cell away? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. For me, it's just purely mentally for me. I leave the old queen inside of the old box, and I remove the queen cell and then make them a new box in there. That's it. Only because the queen is still going to lay eggs in the hive. She's not going to stop, so it's all good. But then after that, maybe those queen cells are not valid, meaning that if I was to leave a big box full of queen cells and then none of them are good, meaning they're not surviving, then I have a big double-story box, and there's no point for me to keep it. So I leave the old queen inside of the box.
Yeah, right.
The mother hive.
What do you think about if you kind of demarie it? So you don't want to get. I know that you said that you don't like squishing the cells.
I do squish.
Yeah. So if you saw the cell and you're like, I don't want them to swarm, I don't want another hive, I've left it, it's a bit too late, so what can I do? So you could get rid of the cells, and if you stick in that other box in between, and then you put that, if you got two boxes, sorry, and then you put a third in between, then that kind of gap in between allows them to think that there's already been a swarm. It kind of allows the pheromone or the swarming tendency to die off. And then once that swarming tendency's died off, you can get rid of that middle box again and put them back together again. Am I right in thinking that's how you could do it?
You can do that, definitely. And it's always a good thing anyways to under super your hive in any ways. Like if you were to place a box on top, it's just like, the thing is that when you under super your hive, it entice them to go through everything to be able to finish the job that they're doing upstairs. So yeah, it's a great thing to do like that. I'm seeing one question and I really want to answer to it. Sorry. Is how far away do you take the splits? You can set it up just next to your hive. All you need to do is close the splits for 48 hours, change the entrance position for maybe a couple of weeks, and open them up, and voila. And would you have to have a ventilated bottom board in order to close them up for 48? Yes. So one of the good things, if you don't have a ventilated box, like it's an old box with like no ventilation in there, you can actually place popsicle around the lid and in between of the lid and the box, and it gives that air, and like the bees cannot just get out from there. But most of the time, if you know it's going to be a sunny day, you're not going to leave a closed box full sun. Yeah. Like, who does that? Yeah. Wrapped up in a blanket with a heater on. Yeah. You place them like in the shady spots for like a couple of days if it's a warm day and you have no other, like you have no other way to placing it elsewhere. Place it in the shade, they're gonna be fine, and in 2 days you can place them just next to the mother hive, and that's gonna be okay. Okay. Well, I mean, what you're sounding like could be the biggest mistake that a beekeeper has ever made. So let's find out what the biggest mistake that you've ever made beekeeping. That's what it is. Okay. Got a good one. I can tell there's probably lots, It's not the closed box. I can tell you that. That was my apprentice. I asked her to just open the hive when it's ready, but that wasn't me. That's not me. I'll leave the box full sun. Yeah, okay. No, me personally talking. So one of the major thing, I think it's more personal than anything else, is that I had a big night one night, and then say no more. Stop. Kids go to bed. It wasn't with Ben Moore, was it? Oh, we had a few good nights, but no. Yeah. I had a couple of bottles of wine, and then the day after, I knew I had that cut out to do. Firstly, I wasn't ready. I had boxes and frames everywhere, and I didn't put the elastic bands, and I was just like a rock up there, and I still stunk like wine. I was like, why am I doing that? I also forgot my full suit. So,
oh, okay. So you're turning up in Crocs and just a little hat.
no, I had my outfit, so my vest. I had my vest, and I had skinny black jeans.
What were you
First
thinking?
thing you can do to yourself. Firstly, I got stung a few times, but obviously when you drink a lot the night before, you need to have 2 minutes break in between of cutting comb, because it was a major cutout, like the size of, like, if I put you back there, it was that big.
That's not going to fit in one box.
No. But what I did is that I didn't realize I had bees on my buttocks, and I sat down.
So the biggest mistake you've ever made was getting smashed, doing a massive cutout, getting bees on your bum, and then squishing them on your bum. I love it. I love it.
Terrible. There you go.
This is just bizarre.
And what would be the like your best piece of advice for a new beekeeper?
Never go too quick, too soon.
Too quick, too soon, or too big, too soon? Which one do you?
Too big, too quick.
Too big, too quick.
Take your time, learn, practice, experiment.
Yeah.
So don't be me. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, no, I agree. I really do agree.
You have moved quickly, Ryan. That is absolutely true.
How quickly did you move?
Hey?
How quickly were you?
I went from 3 to 60. I grew from 3 and learned how to queen breed in the first season, and bred them all and went to 60 in the first season.
Cool.
It was ridiculous.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't advise someone to do this.
Yeah.
Be careful.
You gotta be careful. It's an addiction, and you know, once you have one, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna have more. And yeah, it takes time to learn about bees, but also it takes time to learn about you and your relationship with bees, and knowing, like, if you went from 3 to 60 and you have already a main job, how difficult is that? Like, and the finance that comes with it is not that cheap. It's very expensive.
Takes a while to get that back, doesn't it?
That's it. So don't.
Do you get it back?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I'm looking forward to that day.
Oh dear.
Guys,
Prashant, what do you got?
there are a lot of, I mean, you've actually opened floodgates on the chat. What I would ask everybody, because we are simply out of time today, is to move on to Hive Buddy and post your queries there, and probably Vanessa or some mentor can actually help you with those questions. That was the idea of asking so many questions.
Yeah. Well, Simon, do you want to talk about Vanessa on Hive Buddy? And
I was going to say exactly that. So Prashant's right, is there's so many questions we can't possibly tackle them all. We will make sure please make sure you take your questions over there. We'll see the transcript and try and get over there as well. But that gives us the next few days to answer some of those. So we'll come back to that. But you guys absolutely must know that Vanessa is one of our mentors through Hive Buddy. And if you've got a little bit of a sample of the sort of person she is tonight, maybe you want to spend more time around her and perhaps go on a journey of beekeeping with her. So I'd encourage you to take a look at the Hive Buddy website at some point. Her program starts in only a couple of weeks. So actually, there's not much time left and there's only a certain number of spots. But if you go to hivebuddy.com.au and check out our programs, you'll see that she's got one there, along with some other amazing mentors on there as well. So just because she's in South Australia doesn't mean, no, it's not relevant for you because you live in Sydney or you live in Darwin or wherever it may. That's not there's still something to offer there, but we've got people from all over Australia as part of it. So that's really important to say. And Vanessa, I'm so excited we've got you with that. It's going to be an absolutely cracking cohort that go through with you, and they're going to just get so much awesome benefit from that. Can't wait to see it. Loving these comments, loving people getting involved in helping guide our conversation, Ryan. We said at the start, keep sending us your thoughts and ideas. And Ryan, we've had some like really lovely feedback, and we would like more feedback. So if you think that there's something that we should be doing or changing, or if you've got a suggestion for the next show of how we should do this, well, we're really keen to hear that. So please do consider giving us that sort of feedback.
Just know, everybody, that we are not changing the opening sequence, not for a while anyway, okay?
Not just yet. Not just yet. I suppose in saying that, Ryan, we probably should finish up by saying thanks very much once more to Vanessa for spending the time with us. It's been awesome having you.
A huge thank you. Get on Instagram, follow her. She's awesome.
Oh, Prashant, thank you to you. Thank you to you, Ryan. And most importantly, thank you to our legendary listeners and people watching this now and in the future on record. It's awesome to have you here, and can't wait to see you all again when we get back to it in the next few weeks.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Well done, everybody. Take care and cheers. You know what I'm trying to do here, Ryan, don't you?
What? Oh, you try? Yeah. We got to go out to the opening sequence again.
Got to go out.
Got to see it one more time.
Got to see it one more time. So, here it is for everyone. I know this is what you've all been waiting for. Pressing play now. Everybody.
Yeah. Woo!
Bouncy. Thanks, Charlie. Very bouncy.
See you guys. Be safe.
Good work, all. Oh, there you go.